Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. My name is Jared. In this video, I wanted to cover the first portion of President Nelson's talk called Rejoice in the Gift of Priesthood Keys. I was amazed by this talk. I was amazed by the entire conference, but I was wondering the entire time, like, why is there not more talk about the Kirtland Temple? I figured that there would be many different talks, and there were a couple, but it seems like maybe it was meant to be that President Nelson would be the one that would talk the most about the Kirtland Temple, and maybe that's fitting. And with all the things that seem to be pointing to this conference, I think the thing that was being pointed to, well, at least one of the big things was the Kirtland Temple. I think that the temple coming back into the church is more significant than what we realize. But there were also a lot of warnings during this general conference. So it's like we have the Kirtland Temple, there were a lot of warnings, and there were some other themes. So, but anyway, his talk was essentially about the Kirtland Temple and what happened there. Rejoice in the gift of priesthood keys. Keys, like significant keys that were restored in the Kirtland Temple. Okay, so let's just read this first part. I have a few things I want to point out. My dear brothers and sisters, today is an historic day for President Dallin H. Oaks and me. It was 40 years ago on April 7th, they're not that old, 1984, when we were sustained to the quorum of the 12 apostles. Okay, that's the first sentence of his talk. That's the first thing that he points out. Okay, that exactly 40 years ago, that day that he was given this talk, they became apostles. Now, look, President Nelson, I think that he sees significance in that there is significance in timing in things like this. Let me just read you a quick thing. I've shared this on the channel before, but okay. So this is a BYU Hawaii devotional. This talk is by Sherry Dew. Prophets Can See Around Corners. We've read this a few different times, but in case you're new and you haven't seen this, I want you to pay attention to this. 2 years ago, I saw President Russell M. Nelson see something I could not see. On September 17th, 2020, I was among those invited to a communications meeting with President Nelson. The pandemic was raging, and we suggested that President Nelson record a message of hope for church members. He told us to, quote unquote, sprinkle a little fertilizer on that idea and bring it back to him the following week. But then, the very next day, President Nelson asked our group to meet with him again. He told us that our idea wasn't bad. It just wasn't right. During the night, he had received the impression that he would indeed record a message, but a message for the world, not just for members. He said his message should be about gratitude and include a prayer for the world. He told us the exact day and time the video should be released and even how long it should be. Okay? Day, time, and length of video. Continuing. I had never heard President Nelson be so specific about communication details, but as he spoke, I knew that I was witnessing a prophet act on revelation. So not that President Nelson thought it would be a good idea to do it when they did. It wasn't like his own, preferences, or he wasn't doing it on a whim. He was acting on revelation from the Lord about the exact day, the time the video should be released, and how long it should be. Revelation. And it's not too far-fetched, is it? When we think about the Lord is God is a God of order. He does things in an orderly way. And you can see that when it comes to timing and patterns, because that's order. So it makes sense that, that he would reveal something like this. All right, continuing. We assembled a team of videographers and others to fulfill President Nelson's instructions. If this group had relied on their own expertise, they would never have recommended a video as long as the one President Nelson specified, nor would they have suggested releasing it on a Friday. But a prophet had spoken, and we went to work. The result was the hashtag Give Thanks video released on November 20th, 2020. I want to point something out here. So November is the 11th month, and I don't have the video pulled up. I've done it before, but just go to in Google or in YouTube, type Give Thanks President Nelson, and it'll come up. And the length of the video was 11 minutes. So 11-minute long video in the 11th month, released at 11 a.m. Mountain Time, and it was on the 20th of 2020. So that's a lot of 11s and a lot of 20s. Okay, she continues. And the results? Unprecedented. That video's reach dwarfed anything the church had ever released, especially to those not of our faith. Never in the history of the earth had so many people heard a prophet's voice. Prophets see around corners. I'm going to pull something up right now. I wasn't planning to share, but I think I should share this. And we've covered this before on the channel, but maybe you haven't seen this yet. Okay, here we go. I found it. Okay, so this is Sister Nelson. It's from this Church News YouTube video. My witness, Sister Wendy Nelson. Look what she says. I'm a witness by being present, and I'm a witness by being absent, that the Lord indeed instructs his prophet. Sometimes the Lord has me stay close to my husband when he is receiving instructions. My husband will say during the night, just like what we just read from Sherry Do, okay, dear, it's happening. I just remain quiet, and then soon he's sitting up at the side of his bed writing, now with a lighted pen that someone gave him. It's pretty cute. The number of nighttime messages to him since becoming president of the church have increased exponentially. It's incredible. It was an early Saturday morning, and I could feel I was supposed to get out of bed. I wasn't finished sleeping. I didn't want to get out of bed, but I could feel move out of bed now. So I went down and did some family history research. 2 hours later, 2 hours later, my husband emerged from our bedroom and said, Wendy, you won't believe what's been happening for 2 hours. The Lord has given me detailed instruction about a process I am to follow. Sometimes it's just 2 lines. I never look at it. He'll just hold it up and show me. I just think those are private messages to him, and I would never look. And there's more. You can access my spreadsheet anytime. The link is in the description box below. I'm looking at my spreadsheet called Quotes A through Z, and this is row 161 at the moment. But the rows change because I keep adding new entries to this. So, okay. So the Lord gives precise instructions, and sometimes it has to do with timing. Sometimes it's, in the case of like temples, the width and length. Like we know that the Kirtland Temple, as well as the temples of New Jerusalem, if they had been built, the dimensions were given by revelation. It wasn't just like, okay, you guys figure it out, you build it. Just no, the Lord specified specific measurements. So when we come back to President Nelson's talk, and he's pointing this out, that exactly 40 years later, we're in this general conference. The Kirtland Temple had just been purchased a month before, and this seemed to be a pretty special general conference. And he puts right here in this footnote, footnote 1, which says, I filled the vacancy of the quorum of the 12 left by the January 11th. Okay, so the first month, the 11th day, 111, 1983, death of Elder LeGrand Richards. Elder Oaks filled that which was left by the January 11th, 1984, death of Mark E. Peterson. Don't you think that's a little bit weird that both of those apostles passed away on 111, 1 year apart, exactly? And then you had President Nelson and President Oaks come in at the same time to fill both those vacancies. Now, there's actually more to that story, and I've already done a video about this, but let me just show you a little bit. So this is LDS Living, the miracle behind President Nelson's call as an apostle. And this is by Sherry Do. This is from October 5th, 2019. Okay, I wish I could talk to Sherry Do. I'm going to see if I can it's probably not possible, but I'm going to see if I can like I want to see if I can interview her. Sherry D, if you're watching this, you don't have to do it. I won't be, I'll be a little bit heartbroken, but it's okay. But okay. Anyway, on January 11th, 1983, Elder LeGrand Richards of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles passed away. This is LeGrand Richards right here. Okay. And here's when he passed away, January 11th, 1983. Okay. With April General Conference less than 3 months away, members looked forward to the calling of a new apostle. The call of a man to fill a vacancy in the quorum of the 12 apostles is the responsibility and prerogative of the president of the church. Only he has the authority to receive revelation about whom the Lord has prepared and selected for that high and holy calling. During the months preceding conference, President Spencer W. Kimball's health had become increasingly frail and his memory spotty. To the disappointment of many, the April 1983 General Conference came and went without a call to the 12 announced. As the October 1983 General Conference approached, speculation again mounted that this time surely the vacancy in the 12 would be filled. But again, there was a disappointment. No one was called. Conference came and went for a second time with an empty seat in the quorum. Now, you guys, between these two conferences in 1983, between April and October general conferences of that year, guess what happened? There was a flooding event in Salt Lake City. There's the Salt Lake Temple. There's a flood and people trying to use sandbags to divert the flow of water. And, here's the church office building. It looks like it's even closer there. So we had this like very strange happening. Now, I went into all the details of this event in this video right here. President Nelson and Oaks connected with the 1983 Salt Lake City flood. 40 years later, another downtown flood. Now, it turns out that didn't happen, but there was like the prospect that this could have played out again last year. I made this video, of all days, on March 11th, 2023. Okay, but anyway, so it was a thing that stood out. You have these news articles that are looking back to when that occurred, to remember that event. And as you can see, there were fish in the streets. There was fish in the streets of Salt Lake City. People fishing for the fish. But it was a strange occurrence. But it happened at this time when there was this vacancy that President Nelson would fill. Okay, because Mark E. Peterson hadn't passed away at this point. At this point, it was just the one vacancy. But between the two, that's when you had this flooding in Salt Lake City. There's the state capitol building. So, and, you can't see it right here, but this block to the left of this is where you have the church office building and Beehive House, or the Lion House and Beehive House and so forth, Joseph Smith Memorial Building. So, you can't ignore these things, you guys. You can't ignore it. It's too weird. It's too strange. It like highlights, what's going on at that moment. And this was another thing. We're going to talk about flooding in this last general conference because that was brought up. And I think it's a warning. But anyway, back to this article. Then, on January 11th, 1984, a year to the day after the passing of Elder Richards, Elder Mark E. Peterson of the 12 passed away. Now, there were two vacancies in the 12, and if anything, the situation was more critical. President Kimball's health had deteriorated even further, and his mind was less dependable. To make matters worse, those privy to the situation knew President Kimball was in no condition to receive the revelation to extend such calls. One of those persons was Dr. Nelson. The week before the April 1984 General Conference, Russell's surgical nurse, Jan Curtis, mentioned how excited she was for the upcoming conference because 2 new apostles would be called. Russell tried to gently tell her that it wasn't going to happen. Quote, "I was his doctor and I knew it, and I knew it wasn't feasible for that President Kimball. Okay, I knew it wasn't feasible that President Kimball was not well or coherent enough to do it. I explained to her that calling an apostle is the prerogative of the president of the church and that President Kimball was simply in no condition to do that." And then there's a picture of President Nelson. Okay. For months, President Gordon B. Hinckley, the only healthy member of the first presidency at the time, President Marion G. Romney's health had also deteriorated, had left standing instructions with President Kimball's caregivers that if the prophet's mind ever cleared, they were to call him immediately, regardless of the hour. Month after month passed with no call. From time to time, President Hinckley looked in on President Kimball, but an opportunity to discuss such a spiritually sensitive topic as calls to the 12 never presented itself. Then, at about 2:30 a.m., so in the nighttime, just like how President Nelson, I guess, receives a lot of revelation in the nighttime with President Spencer W. Kimball, at about 2:30 a.m. on the Wednesday morning prior to the April 1984 General Conference, the phone rang at President Hinckley's home. President Kimball was alert and wanted to talk to him. President Hinckley rushed downtown to President Kimball's suite in the Hotel Utah, where the issue of vacancies in the 12 was raised. President Kimball said simply, quote, "Call Nelson and Oaks to the quorum of the 12 in that order." So, again, if he hadn't said in that order, it may have been President Oaks that was president of the church right now, but it's not supposed to be like that. And we've talked many, many times on this channel, and I know that a lot of you have, a lot of people seem to like really be aware of the fact that we have President Nelson, who is the heart surgeon, and then we have President Oaks, who's the judge. And that's kind of ominous at a time when we're looking forward to the second coming. It seems as though symbolically, metaphorically, President Nelson is working on the heart of the church, trying to get us to be a Zion people of one heart, one mind, and pure of heart. And once that's accomplished enough, and when the timing, we know that there's an appointed time for the second coming, he'll have worked on the heart of the church up until that point, and then maybe after that, or just before that, or just before the second coming, we'll have President Oaks, the judge. As Christ comes and judgment is given to the world, you're going to have those that are the wicked. They're going to be judged as wicked and removed from the face of the earth. And not only that, but a brand new kingdom is going to be instituted. Christ's kingdom, he's going to reign, and all nations will be subject to him. So I don't know. It's all significant. And again, President Nelson, at the very beginning of his talk, he points this out in his footnote. Well, first he says it's been exactly 40 years today. And then in the footnote, he points out that you had these two apostles that died exactly 1 year apart on 1/1/1. There's something to that. I believe there's something to that. I think that this general conference was highly significant. This was his talk on this Sunday, the 40-year anniversary. On this Sunday is when he talked about the Kirtland Temple, and I don't think we understand the full implications of what just happened last month. I think that if there was anything that was being pointed to, I think it was this. So, I'm probably actually going to stop it right here. I thought that wouldn't take up that much time, what we just talked about. But, there's going to be a lot to unpack for a while, I think. This general conference was something else. So, but please just know that the Lord is a Lord of, or a God of order, and these things aren't silly. Measurements, whether they be in space or in time, it's significant. And I think that after this life, we'll look back and see how much order there actually was that we weren't aware of. So I think something major has happened. I think that President Nelson and others have pointed to it. And we'll do our best here to try and unpack what we can. In the meantime, follow me on Facebook, like my page, and I have additional content that I put on there. Some things that I can't put on here, like, family pictures or just little thoughts that wouldn't be enough for a video, and just other things. So follow me on Facebook. You can also follow me on X and on Instagram. I have accounts on there as well. But that's going to be it for this one. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.